Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. It's the second of the month, so I'm so excited to share my sheet load of cards for August 2025. This is the creative team's release day to show how we use the latest sheet load of card sketch from Call Me Crafty Owl to create our own set of cards. As a reminder, this is a playlist hop, so you can find that link down below in my description box so you can not only watch my video, but watch everyone else's video to see how they use this month's sheet load for their inspiration to create their set of cards. For my cards today, I'm going to be using the What the Fork stamp set from the Sassy Club. I really love the cute little spork character and the sentiment that says, "Hope your B-Day is trash." I don't know why that's so funny, but it is. And I'm going to use the Patches die set for my sentiment. And then this is a special sheet load where we're using 6x6 paper pads. So I'm using two different designs, 4 sheets total from the Toy Box 6x6 paper pad. I decided to go with the cowboy themed shirt, which is yellow and the red like plaitish design, and then I liked the tone on tone blue stars. I'm also grabbing some sapphire blue cardstock from Cardstock Warehouse, a sheet of vellum from scrapbook.com, and some barn red cardstock from Lawn Fawn. I followed the sheet load of sketch, so if you want to get your own copy to create your own version of the sheet load of cards, make sure you head over to Call Me Crafty Owl's video from yesterday. You can find that down in my description box as well. But I've done all of my cutting following the sketch, and I wanted to show how I'm using the new A7 Cardmaker's T-Square from Pear Blossom Press to line up my little strips of paper. I lined it up into the corner of the 1/8 of an inch so I can get a nice even border on the left and top of all of my strips. So I'm just rotating my piece of blue cardstock and I'm adding in all of my yellow strips of paper. After that, I just use the space that's left behind to add in my blue star pieces of paper. I love how easy the T-square ruler creates that border. The A2 has larger borders, but the new A7 has a 1/4 inch and 1/8 of an inch, which are usually my go-to. So I'm really excited to have that option. Here you can see all my strips of paper on my blue cardstock panel. And now let's move on to our centerpiece, which will be our little spork character here and the sentiment. So I've die cut the red cardstock out of the half circle and then the vellum out of the larger half circle that has a fun kind of stitch design around the edge. And I'm going to stamp that sentiment onto the red cardstock. I thought about embossing it in white embossing powder. I think that would have turned out really nice. But when you make 8 cards, sometimes heat embossing can take a little time. So I'm just going to use some black ink to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to stamp my little character in black ink as well and color him in. So I figured just having black for the sentiment would be fine. It's still very easy to read on red. But I would say if I'm going to just create one of these cards instead of a batch, I would probably have embossed the sentiment in white instead. I stamped it a little off to the right because I'm going to overlap my little character once I am ready to glue this piece to the center of the card. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and glue that red piece to the center of my vellum. I love that the sketch is a vellum circle with the sentiment as a die cut. So I switched it up a little bit with not having a sentiment die cut, but still including that vellum as the kind of like background for my red sentiment. I stamped my little character and I decided to also stamp the little bouncy ball, and I used my scan and cut to cut out all of my images. I'm just going to show some simple coloring using Olo markers. I stamped my images in the Onyx Black Sassy Club ink pad, and I'm using Cool Gray 0 and Cool Gray 1 to add in some colors of my little sporky friend here. I used the 0 to kind of just add a little shadow to the eyes, and the one for the spork itself. I'm using OR 3.4 and 3.2 for the popsicle stick feet, and O 7.3 and O 7.1 for the kind of Play-Doh-y, silly putty at the bottom of the spork, holding those popsicle sticks in place. I'm going to move on to yellow, so I'm using Y2.2 and Y1.2 to color in the yellow portion of the bouncy ball. I'll move on to blues, and I'm using B26 to outline, or as the darker shade, to outline the bouncy ball as well as the mouth area of our little spork friend. So I'm just going to use the darker shade to add a little shadow, and then I'll move on to the lighter shade B2.4 to fill in the rest of the blue areas. After that, the last color scheme I'm going to use is red. So I'm using R0.6 and R0.5. Again, starting with the darker color to add in the shadow, which is the red star on the bouncy ball, the eyebrows of our little face of our little fork friend here, and then his pipe cleaner arms. So once I get the 0.6 down, I'm going to move on to the 0.5 and finish coloring in my character. The last little bit of touch I wanted to do was add in some little rosy cheeks. He has cute little drawn on cheeks. So I'm going to use another R color. I'm going to use R0.2 to color in his cheeks. So just adding little pale pink dots to the cheeks of our little spork friend. After that, we're ready to assemble the rest of the card. So I'm going to grab my liquid adhesive and I'm going to add glue to where my spork friend here overlaps how I want him over the sentiment, kind of half circle. I want it to line up just to the left of that sentiment, so his little hand is right next to the word trash. And then I'm going to add glue to the back of my bouncy ball, and I'm going to add that to kind of fill in a little bit of that space next to our character and under the sentiment. Just want to give it a little bit more since I felt like my sentiment was kind of high up. Now that that's ready, I'm going to grab some foam adhesive. I'm going to use a little bit of a thinner foam adhesive so that way I don't have too much dimension on the card, but I'm going to use the foam adhesive along the back of my sentiment and my character, making sure that I don't have any of that foam adhesive sticking out where you can see it through the vellum or past the edge of any of my images here. I peeled off all the release paper, and I'm going to grab my A2 Cardmaker T-square to try to help me get this looking as centered as possible. So I've lined it up so it's fitted in. It's not quite 8-2 this panel, but I can center it, and then I'm adding my sentiment and my character. I'm going to lightly place it down, make sure I like how it looks, and then really press down that foam adhesive. That finishes assembling my card panel, so let's put it onto a card base. This is going to be a side folding A2 card base, but I'm going to turn it on its side so it's horizontal, so really it's still a top folding card. And then I'm going to grab my big tape runner to add adhesive to the back of the panel and glue that to the center of my card base. I could have grabbed my A7 T-square again to make sure I had a nice even border, but it was pretty easy to just get that centered. I grabbed my white gel pen and I'm going to just add some highlights to my images here, also cover up anywhere where I may have gone out of the lines, and that finishes off my card. I repeat this process another 7 times so I can make a total of 8 cards, which you can see here as a close-up of just one of my cute little cards, and then next you'll see all 8. But don't forget to click that link down below so you can hop along with us today, and I hope you enjoyed my take on the SheetLoad featuring Sassy Club products. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!